friends, I'm back today with a video on a brand that I actually recently talked about, and so it's kind of funny that it took me that long to review that, and now we're jumping right into this. So, the brand that I'm talking about today is Danessa Myricks Beauty, and the palette that I'm talking about is a Lightwork 4. So, this is the packaging, and I apologize, it's kind of a hot mess. The box matches, it looks just like this. I like this a lot better than the first packaging, personally. This is $125, and it is very, very different from the Lightwork 3 in some ways, and then it's similar in others. But this is the outer packaging, and I like that it actually kind of shifts from purple to like a magenta and kind of a pink. It's really pretty. When you open it up, this is the color story, and there are some different formulas in this as well. So, we have a ton of multichromes all around the top and the bottom. Oops, I just stuck my finger in it. Of course, why wouldn't I? And they're extremely shifty, which I don't know, hopefully, I feel like they're way more shifty than they're looking right now. Very interesting, really beautiful, great quality. Danessa Myricks has a fantastic multichrome formula, in my opinion, and I have tried, I mean, literally dozens of multichrome formulations, probably more than that, which is why I can say she's done such a great job with this. Also, she is a Black-owned brand, and she's a great makeup artist. So, getting into some of these other formulas that we've got going on here, this one right here is actually kind of crumbly-ish, and it's what I've got in my brow arch right now, but it's still really easy to use and smooth. Some of these you can get some kickback with, but I mean, you can just brush it away. Although, in a perfect world, you would probably do your foundation last, and that's what I would normally do if I wasn't doing videos. I just don't have great skin, and I don't love to record my eyeshadow when I don't have makeup on. It's a personal thing. Maybe in the future I'll step away from that. But these shades in the middle are very, very different. So this one right here and this one right here are water activated. Now, I've seen a lot of people use it as an eyeliner, and it seems to work best in that format. Now, I did use it yesterday, and I used it as a wash of color all over the eye. It is very much like using watercolor paints, so if you're at all familiar with that, you will be, I mean, it will be more familiar to you. Don't expect it to come across super opaque, and don't expect it to come across like an eyeshadow, because it is absolutely not. I would say if you do want to build them up the most, kind of get your brush, well, you wet the actual shadow and then pick it up with your brush. I would let it congeal for a second and then put it on. That way you can get a little bit thicker, and patting motions seem to work well with it. At least it did for me, and I layered both of these shades at the same time. They're pretty shifty in themselves, actually. Now, these two shades right here, she actually did a little bit of demonstrations with on her Instagram, and what she did was she took a silicone brush, which is still dirty, I'm sorry, and what I did was I kind of scraped the product, and I put it actually over these when they were a little bit tacky still, or you could probably use, I would assume, any kind of base. I've been loving the Lick Life, and this is from Death and Candy Custom Creations. Really love it. Super affordable. You can get a gluten-free version, and honestly, it's probably my favorite that I've ever used. You can also use it with something like this, which is the Artistry Wand from Pat McGrath, or NYX Glitter Glue. All of those will work, but I will say these are kind of weird, and it's like this with any kind of multichrome flakes that I've tried. They will make your eyeshadow very patchy. I will put up a picture here, so hopefully you can see where it kind of cracked in my eye area and on my crease, and I kept trying to rub it back out, but it still would do the same thing. So this, there's people that are really good at applying multichrome flakes, and it's not me. I do think they're beautiful and really impactful, but for the everyday makeup wearer, or even somebody trying to dabble into multichromes, I find them to be hard to work with. So just keep that in mind if you're really wanting to try some of these shades. I'm wondering if she'll do a palette like this. Sorry, there's been like a shit ton of birds just flying overhead of my house. When she did the Lightwork 3, she ended up doing a variation where she did just the highlights and then also just the eyeshadows. So maybe hold tight. Maybe she'll do that with this. I really like them, though. I just want to play with it a little bit more. That's all I'm going to say. So overall, I've used this 4 times, and I really love the multichromes. Are definitely some of the best. The rest of it, I think, is a learning curve and just going to take a little bit more time. But for $125, I would much rather spend my money on this than a Pat McGrath palette at this point. I like Pat McGrath's packaging. Well, I used to like it a lot more, but it's starting to get like kind of redundant at this point. But what's inside, you're getting so much more that you would spend a ton of money on if you were buying each of these shades one by one. So I feel value-wise, this is definitely better. In any case, I'm going to attempt to do swatches. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how those shades in the middle are going to swatch, so maybe I will not dink with them, or I'll do them separately somehow. Then I'm going to do 4 eye looks for you, and I'll be back at the very end with my final thoughts. And I'm sorry my voice is cracking like I'm going through puberty. I don't get it here. Okay, so with this one, I went ahead and paired the look that I did with the Nomad Cosmetics Hudson Valley palette with two gorgeous shades from the Danessa Myricks palette. So I went ahead and I used the shade Zen, which looks totally different in every single light. And I'm obsessed with it, and I put that all over like the first, I'd say, half of my lid. I did the same thing under, and then I took the shade Nirvana and I put it in my outer V and then kind of underneath as well, which I feel like you can really see how impactful it was comparing it to this eye, which is gorgeous, but ooh, man, a multi-chrome, you can't beat that. I'm just saying. I think I took this up a little too high, but we're gonna go ahead and ignore that. Okay, my lighting sucks in here. I already had an eye look on from when I did the Nomad Hudson Valley palette look, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shade Angels, and I'm going to put it up in my brow arch and in my inner eye, and then I'm going to take the shade Divinity, and I'm going to put it on the first half of my eye, maybe slightly a little bit more, and then I'm going to take the shade Trippy. I'm going to put it in my outer V all the way up to halfway through my eye. Now these shades are extremely shifty, so when I first looked at it, it looked more like a bronzy shade, and now it's looking very, very green on camera, but it also has a really beautiful maroon shift. I'm telling you, these two together have been like really, really pretty. Alright, I'm going to quickly tell you guys what I did. I might have food in my teeth. I apologize. I did not plan on coming back on here. I was kind of like, meh. But I really wanted to keep using this palette. And I wanted to try out some of the formulas I've not used before. So I did use a different palette along with this just for a matte shade. This is the Poison Garden 2 palette. I used the shade Morning Glory and I put that all in my crease and then blew it on out. Then when I went into the actual Lightwork 4 palette, I used the shade Angels in my brow highlight and my inner eye. Then I took the shade Intuition and Aura, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to wet it before you use it. So I went ahead and I did that, and I just coated all over my lid up to exactly the middle of my crease, and I applied it with just like a normal brush. So it worked. It was kind of like using watercolor paints, so expect that kind of texture. Now, if I did a line, it probably would have looked different, but I didn't. I wanted it everywhere. Then the last thing I did, and this is what they suggested on the videos, was took a silicone brush and I picked up the shade Heaven and I worked it all over my lid. I'm very curious since I don't think it has a base. I haven't touched it, but yeah. Well, maybe it's got a slight base. If it will irritate my eyes, because for me, usually the multichrome flakes that don't have a base do irritate my eyes. But right now, it just feels slightly thick on my lid, but not itchy or uncomfortable. So by the time I'm done, I will probably know if it's going to be like, oh shit, I need to get this off right now or not. And everything I did up top, I did on my lower lash line as well. Okay, so what I did was I took the shade Angels and I put it into my brow arch in my inner corner of my eye. Then I went into this palette and I used Lily of the Valley in my crease and I blew it out. And then I took the shade Oleander and I put it just slightly above my crease and I kind of worked it into the shades that I'm going to talk about in a second. Everything that I did up top, I did down below. Then I went into the shade Sixth Sense and I put it all over my lid. I brought it slightly up into my crease and I brought it over pretty much the whole eye on top and the bottom. Then I took the shade Out of Body and I put it on this half of my lid back, and I did the same for the under part. And then I actually took a little bit, and I don't know if you can actually even see it, I took a little bit of the shade Awakening and I put it just out in my outer V and I worked it a little bit underneath. But I feel like that kind of got lost when I did some blending. But that was my fault. I actually did a lot of things that I'm not mentioning here because I messed it all up, and we're just not going to discuss those. All right, I'm back and I want to give you guys my final thoughts. I apologize, my voice keeps cracking. I'm not sure what's going on with it, but we're talking about today is Danessa Myricks Beauty. This is the Lightwork 4 palette. This actually did come pretty quickly, considering sometimes Beautylish can get a little backed up, but came extremely quickly. It was well packaged. This is the actual packaging. The box looks just like this. It does get pretty fingerprinted, so I dislike that. But I like that this kind of shifts from a purple to like a pink to a magenta. It's really nice. When you open it up, this is the color story right here. The multi-chromes in here, which are on the top and the bottom row, are just stunning. Like, they're very creamy. They're easy to use. They build well. They work well together. They're definitely some of my favorite formulation that are out there. I said that really weird, but go with me. Now, this middle row is very, very different. So this shade and this shade are kind of water-activated colors. You put the water on the shade itself, and then you use it. Now, I think as an eyeliner, it would probably be really good. As an all-over wash of color, it's a little kind of strange. But you could use it as an eyeshadow base and then put one of these over the top, and it would probably be really gorgeous. Now, I did try these. I used them with a silicone brush like she does. I kind of scraped it off and then dabbled it on, and then when that didn't work the best, I kind of scraped it all over my lid. I didn't leave it on very long because I was concerned that I would have a reaction. However, I did not experience that, but I didn't have it on very long. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening to my voice right now. This shade down here is slightly crumbly, but it is really easy to use, so I wouldn't worry about that. You will get some fallout from the shades depending how you apply them, so keep that in mind. You might want to do your foundation last. That's what I would do in a perfect world. But overall, I feel like for $125, yes, that's expensive, but if you were to buy these shades on their own, you would spend a lot more money, and I feel that this is a great value, and she nailed it. She did a great job with this. The middle row is going to be a learning curve for me, and I'm going to try to play with it more, but I think this palette is fantastic. So if you're at all interested in those colors, I definitely think you should check it out, especially if If you're not interested in the middle row, maybe hang tight. Maybe she'll release another variation like with Lightwork 3 where it's just the top and bottom rows. That's what I kind of would guess. But I could be wrong, so don't hold me to it. I don't have any insider information or anything like that. With that being said, I hope that this video was helpful to you guys. If it was, I would love to have you as a subscriber.
You have to slap the subscribe, baby.
Apparently my husband's like, slap the subscribe. He went on a whole thing about slap chopping, and it's a long story. But I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.